If one simple prayer became the foundation for your family's faith? Most businesses don't begin with prayer, but the Catholic Woodworker was born from it. And on today's podcast, I'm sitting down with Jonathan Conrad, the CEO and founder of Catholic Woodworker. In this conversation, we talk about his rosaries, of course, but how the rosary transformed his own life and has turned this mission into helping bring families closer together to God. He started this woodworking business slowly centered around the rosary because Jonathan firsthand saw when beauty and prayer meet, hearts soften, families unite, and faith can literally become tangible. In this episode, we talk about why the rosary is one of the most powerful prayers, not just for families, but for individuals, and how it helps us stay together, and why the beauty of the rosary that they handcrafted is a thriving business that is employing more than 30 stay-at-home moms who help create rosaries from their own homes. Such a beautiful story. And in this story, we talk about how that is really affecting families all around the country and how this successful business has helped lead more people to Christ. If you're a parent, a spouse, or anyone longing for a deeper prayer in your home, you're not going to miss this conversation where we talk about the power of the rosary and this powerful business, the Catholic Woodworker. So pick up your rosary, get ready. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of The Catholic Couple, having fun with faith, family, and friends. I'm your host tonight, Bobby Fredrickson. My wife is off tonight, so you are stuck with me. But luckily, I have a great guest with us. We have the founder and CEO of the Catholic Woodworker, Jonathan Conrad. Thank you so much for taking the time and being on the podcast.
Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate the time. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yes. So the Catholic Woodworker, I mean, it doesn't get more Catholic than that. You got Catholic in the name and woodworker. We know Joseph was a carpenter. Jesus practiced as basically an apprentice as a carpenter. Where did the name come from and how did you get started in this business?
The name came from let's say a hobby that turned into an obsession, woodworking. I created a small business called Conrad Designs and I kind of just went overboard with it. It turned into kind of like a mini idol. And a year or two into it, I realized that I wasn't happy. I was spending time away from the family instead of it like blessing my vocation. And for Christmas, my wife had gotten me a book about the life of Saint Joseph. And I think it was like a story about Saint Joseph, like given to a saint back in like the 15 or 1600s. And so I took a break from woodworking. I read this book. And this was early on and kind of getting back to the faith. And I realized like woodworking isn't bad. It's not, it's what you make of it. And I realized that I really enjoy this thing. It can bless me. It can bless my vocation, but if it's going to, I have to have it. It's got to be rightly ordered. So a couple months later, I got back onto Instagram because that was kind of where that business existed. I changed the name from Conrad Designs to Catholic Woodworker. And I kind of committed that work then to the Lord and said, okay, if I'm going to keep doing this, then I'm going to bring glory to him through the work and order it towards, sanctification. And I think that was probably 12 years ago. And it started out with crucifixes, shifted to home altars and kind of backed into rosaries. And now we are exclusively a rosary company. That's kind of the origins of the name and kind of the inspiration behind it with St. Joseph as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That's one of those things we all have to wrestle with, right? Is that putting first things first, that other things can become the idol, can be the first, up top and God comes below. And it's a temptation that we all fall into, whether that's, money or your job or whatever, even good things. But if that takes the spot of God, it can become an issue. But you found a way to take your passion and unite it to Christ in a real way, which I think is great. I remember the home altars though from being on Instagram. I remember like, man, those are pretty cool. So what led to, I'm sure that those are in a lot of work that goes into those. Rosaries obviously are very important. How did you shift from doing the home altars, which I remember had like a crucifix, had spots for the prayer cards on the side, right?
Yeah.
And then, so how did that look? And how did your business take off? And I know that you also employ a lot of stay-at-home moms. So can you give us a little bit of how this business transformed and
Yeah.
how you got to where you are today?
So it's interesting. Over the last 2 years, I've been asked to kind of tell this story a lot, and so it's been really fun because I've been able to I've had to go back in history and like build a timeline. As we get older, we kind of forget. It's like I don't know if that was yesterday or 5 years ago,
It all blends
but
together. Yeah.
what's a common thread in the story is gifts for my wife, and so I think it was in, let's say, 2017, my wife gave me a book called Champions of the Rosary by Father Calloway. And this was during Lent, and I devoured this book. I'd already been praying the rosary daily for a couple of years, but it really came out of a habit of I knew I needed a relationship with God. I wasn't happy. I started praying the rosary because that's the prayer that I learned growing up. It felt the most comfortable to kind of start there. And so I devour this book, Champions of the Rosary. And by the time I'm done, I'm like, that's it. I'm going to be a champion of the Rosary. And on Easter Monday, I launched a website dedicated to like promoting the Rosary. Since the business was already Catholic Woodworker, it was CatholicWoodworker.com, but it wasn't a product business. It was literally a blog about the Rosary. And at the time I was starting to make rosaries. So I'd like take a picture of a rosary I made, write a blog post, post the picture on Instagram, be like, hey, go read this blog. And people were like, that's fine, but where can I buy that rosary? And that kept repeating, like, hey, okay, sure, but where can I buy that rosary? And I was still doing the woodworking stuff, but it was really the rosaries that took off. And so, fast forward a couple of years, home altars is a small portion of our business. People love them, but really the rosaries continue to grow and grow. And we kept getting to a place where I'm talking to my wife and saying, hey, it's just me. Either I need to cap this thing or I need to get some help. And so she joined and she started shipping orders. And then pretty soon it was like the two of us were like, we can't keep up. What do we do? And the next decision was, okay, let's go ask some friends if they want to learn how to make rosaries. And this was like a month before COVID. So we had a bunch of friends over to our house in January. We had like 6 people in the basement training them how to make rosaries. The next month, COVID hits, but we already had this infrastructure in place where they could just, because where we were, COVID was real, right? And so, like, we couldn't see anybody. And so we were just throwing rosary parts in mailboxes. They'd come by, get the parts, make the rosaries, drop them back off at our house. And things like went bananas that year. Largely in part probably because people are like, I need God in my life. I
Yeah,
can't handle this.
there's a real threat that people are dying and
Yeah.
yeah, so people are
And
or yeah.
and so it kind of just it kept going. And this was 2020, right? So that's still 5 years ago. Um, but at each stage, it was what do we do here? Right? How do we handle this growth? I think it was probably around that time when I started hiring, like I hired my first full-time employee. Because I work in software. Like I have a software job. I work for a software company. I run the business, kind of like two different jobs. And so the growth model has really been primarily in hiring people as needed to kind of offload whatever I can offload so that I can keep working in, two spaces and let this thing grow, and, grow some wings. And so I started to shift my focus from making rosaries to learning how to run a business.
Yeah.
Because like
Not the same thing for sure.
no, it's not. But it was a decision I made that I wish I could say it was like intentional. It wasn't. Like, it kind of just out of necessity, I started shifting my focus more and more, but it allowed me to continue to hire people. And that's kind of where the stay-at-home mom came into play. It started with training those friends, and it worked so well because shipping parts to rosary makers, it doesn't cost that much money. It's They can do it at home. They don't have to go into the office for it, and they can kind of integrate it into their life versus I have to leave the home to go to work and make some money. I can do this at home, and allows them to set their hours, their limits. So it's like if they're going to be gone for the summer, then or their kids are going to be home from the summer, then they say, I'm not making rosaries this summer. No problem. And at one point, I think earlier this year is when we kind of officially made the decision, making rosaries and making home altars, making crucifixes, these things operationally from a manufacturing standpoint are not the same. There's no similarities. They're completely different workflows, completely different suppliers and purchasing models. And we realized like the rosaries is already the central theme of our business. Like our mission is specifically to bring souls to Jesus through Mary. And that was kind of where we really decided we're going to double down on rosaries and kind of go all in on rosaries. And in the future, we might bring back some of these other products, but that was a tough decision. I had poured a lot of my creative energy into home altars and crucifixes. Like this is one of the crucifixes we used to sell. And it was a tough decision, but like once we made that decision, things started just really accelerating. Because all the complexities of trying to basically run 3 different businesses just started kind of falling away. And it's been really beautiful to see how the business has grown significantly in spite of going from a 3 product line company to a 1 product line company.
Yeah, that's this. Sometimes we have to simplify things to let them grow. Sometimes we hear in scripture that, sometimes you got to prune and then things grow. That's just how things work. And then, yeah, if God wants that, it'll come back. So how did you really scale your business as far as, obviously you're on social media, do those things. Did you travel and do a lot of like Seeks and the different conferences to kind of show people, showcase the product? You sent us so graciously a couple of the rosaries, this St. Michael one, which is beautiful, where it's got the sword, obviously Jesus, and it's got the St. Michael, and then the mystical rose one for my wife, which she loves, which has got the miraculous medal on it. But just the craftsmanship is awesome. How do you get this out so people can see them? Because once you hold them, you look at them, there's rosaries, and then there's ones that take that extra special, there's ones that you can just jam in your pocket. Then there's ones like you want to hang and like almost display it because it's like a piece of art. How did it transform into that? And how did you get that word out because it's like once you get into someone's hands, it's a little bit different than seeing a picture of it on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure once people like hold them, they see like, okay, wow, those are something that, I want to make it like my rosary.
Yeah. So I wish I could say that like, we went like the trade show route, where, we started kind of locally and in person and expanded to an e-commerce business. It's almost literally the exact opposite.
Oh, wow.
We started as an Instagram account. I was blessed with a creative mom. She was an art teacher. Through that, I learned art. I learned woodworking from my grandfather, her dad, and my dad. And I started to get into photography when I was a kid, and largely just that creative outlet, right? Took some photography classes, some graphic design classes. And so fast forward, I'm making these products, but with this background in like graphic design and product photography, or just photography in general. At the time, pictures were king, right? Instagram didn't have video. That's how old this is.
Yeah, right.
And so it really was, I think, the product photography that
able to showcase the beauty of it with the art for it to really capture the beauty of it.
Right. And so then once I kind of got let's say a style that clearly was working really well, then it became this thing that, we just kind of rinse and repeat of, we come out with the new designs, we take the product photography the similar way. And it really, I would say, grew initially organically through social media. When they started changing algorithms and you really had to pay to get in front of your audience is when we started to get into digital ads. Yeah. And honestly, that has been, I think, the biggest secret to our continued success is I don't know what I'm doing. And when I don't, I go and get help. The number of people that I've hired as contractors, as consultants, as full-time people, that have helped me and the business get to where we are. I mean, the list is endless. Like I wouldn't be here. The Catholic Woodworker wouldn't exist in the way that it exists without all of those awesome people. So asking for help and being willing to, I guess, maybe be vulnerable enough to be
Yeah.
honest. Like I don't know how to
I know this.
do
Yeah. Being humble.
cost-based accounting. Somebody help me.
Yeah.
And every time I've needed help, I've found awesome people that want to be part of this thing. Um, and really that's been the game changer for us.
Yeah, that's just like that's a growth mindset. We talk a lot about that here on the podcast, is that, which is just humility. It's like, okay, I don't know this thing. I'm be vulnerable enough to ask for help. That's the crux of our faith, is, you know, the humble will be exalted, but like we have to ask to be saved. Like we have to need a savior first, admit that I'm a sinner and I need a savior, like that. But that's where all the growth comes. It's like, okay, I don't know this thing about whatever it is in your business, in your marriage, in parenting or whatever those things is. And if you're having a hard time, it's like, well, sometimes, yeah, seek a book or seek a mentor, someone who's done it before, who can show you. And a lot of times in my life, I know, like, I'll be praying like, Lord, put somebody in my life, I need help with the X, or this. And sure enough, God put somebody in my life to help me in that aspect, as far as the podcasting or how to do YouTube or editing or all those kinds of things. Like right now, I do another podcast. I just came straight from to our parish, and they just this awesome hired an awesome girl who's awesome at video editing, and her background is in doing a lot of the things that we were looking for. And now she's full-time on staff. So she's going to be helping the parish, also helping our podcast, but she's got an eye for it. She's an artist, So it's like, it's just funny, like the people that God will draw to those projects, especially if it's in a line to his purpose and his will and glorifying God. And we're trying to do everything that way. And it's just amazing, when you pray about it, people show up.
That it's exactly how it's happened. I mean, I think about the people that work at the Catholic Woodworker, and I can't actually think of a time where we had to like, of the staff that we have today, where we had to like advertise and publicize and seek out, resumes and wait for months and months and months. It's like every time there's even a perceived need, the next day or the next week or the next month, some random person sends us their resume and is like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Are you guys hiring?"
It's crazy how that happens.
Um, and 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 it's just been it's been that way for as long as I can remember. Is recently, at least the last year and a half, I've been part of Cent Ventures, and joined one of their cohorts, and I've met some really fantastic people through that program. That's been a huge resource for me on the business front of just being in relationship with other. I've also been fortunate. It's been all men, and that's been really helpful, to kind of be in community with other men who are doing similar things, not necessarily in a similar industry, but going out on their own, building a business, trying to scale a business, but that are taking their faith seriously and want to put God first, regardless of whether it's a Catholic company or not.
Yeah.
The work isn't the thing that has dignity. It's the baptized Christian that has dignity. Our work is dignified through us as Catholic Christians. And so that's been a huge blessing to be in that kind of community, and be surrounded by men who are taking their faith seriously and also trying to build and scale businesses. That's been, yeah, a huge blessing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. I'm involved. I help lead a couple men's groups, and I've been praying for, like, we came from another parish. We've been in our parish now for about 5 years, but my prayer was always like, Lord, put a bunch of good, holy men who are running after you, who are successful people who, I'm a convert. So a lot of my life was spent, doing wayward things and being a party guy and gambling and doing all the stuff. Like, all my friends were those guys, and I love them to death. But like, hey, I found Christ, and I'm trying to live a different lifestyle. But like, I always equate it to, like, when the Israelites are freed from Egypt, they're in the desert for a while. And for me, I was in the desert because I wasn't sophisticated enough yet to make those friends. And our parish was mostly older people, and I didn't have any of those friends. So I prayed and prayed and prayed that God would put some similar minded people, some mentors, some people my age, some people that I can help run, to Christ with, and who have the same values and who have kids and trying to, just have that similarities, you know, it makes a big difference. And I prayed and prayed and prayed, and we're so blessed. We have the best community at our parish, and my wife being the principal at the school and like the parent. So I've had the pleasure of helping lead a couple groups, and it's so inspiring. I mean, we have doctors to lawyers to helicopter pilots to, people who run construction companies, people who have huge multi-million dollar businesses. And the more I spend time with them, the more I learn from, you know, whatever, business to parenting to how to be a better Christian, and just seeing that witness. But you are a summation of the people that you spend the most time with. So if, yeah, there is a skill or something you want to learn, try to plug into one of these groups that's going to help you grow to who God wanted you to be. And that doesn't have to be business. That could just be in a Bible study. But you'll see that when you surround and spend more time with people that are chasing after the Lord, you're going to be more like those people. We hear in Mark chapter 2 that a guy is literally saved because of the faith of his friends when they lower him down uh, to see Jesus, and Jesus says, their faith saved you, basically. It's like, so when you have those guys helping you carry the mat, that when you need someone to help correct you, you need someone to help inspire you, to help give you, some guidance, that literally they can help bring you closer to Christ, literally. And it's that important. So if you don't have that group of friends, start by praying for it. That's how it works. Prayer doesn't happen instantaneously. Sometimes it does, but for the most part, it's like you have to have, persistence. But I prayed for 5 years, and then sure enough, right now I have the best group of people
That's
being
awesome.
surrounded by, and because I prayed for that intentionally. Same with your business and your friends and the people who've been helping you. But that's one thing that if you're lacking, it's the one thing that can really take your faith and take your business, take your marriage, surrounding yourself with people who have successful businesses, who have successful marriages, and who are great parents. It's like you can absorb that from them. It's like we don't have that in our culture so much, where in the neighborhoods you'd have that grandmother on the block giving you all her wisdom and how to sew and how to do, like, those days are, you have to intentionally try to find and seek out that, especially for men. It's hard because, like, it's hard for us to be vulnerable a lot, and it's hard for us to
It
share
is.
that stuff.
Yeah, it is very difficult for us. And I would give men the benefit of the doubt that one of the reasons it's hard for us is because we don't like getting advice, but also because um, oftentimes when when we know we need to be vulnerable and are reluctant to be, it's because what we need in that moment isn't actually advice. It's to be heard and understood, like known in whatever it is that we're struggling with. Like, let's say I told the group of guys here locally. I met with them a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to them about just this dry period of where I'm struggling with the mass of going to the mass with the family and just not feeling anything. And it's like I know intellectually what the mass is. I go every Sunday. I go every holy day. Um, like I've been doing this for 15 years. This has nothing to do with like I have a crisis of faith about the mass, but it's like I'm not getting anything out of it, and it's frustrating. I feel discouraged, and what they didn't do was give me a bunch of advice and tell me how to fix it.
Yeah.
They were just like they gave me the space to just sit with me in it.
Like
Uh,
the good friends from Job, not the friends of Job. As soon as they started offering up the advice, it got really bad really
yeah,
quick.
right. But in it, so in that situation, then because they just like sat with me in it,
Yeah.
I was no longer alone in it, and so I left feeling like the burden had lifted, like my heart was lighter, not because I have a solution, but because I'm no longer alone in this. And in order for that to work, though, as men, we have to get better at holding space for the men in our lives to share and be vulnerable and not give advice. There are times where that's needed, but it comes well after fully understanding the person, um,
The
and really making
relationships are built up and the trust has been there and yeah.
exactly. Because otherwise what ends up happening is when we give advice, we give terrible advice.
Yeah.
And then I don't hear it because it's not good advice because it doesn't factor in all the other things that I know about whatever situation it is that I haven't shared yet because I've only been talking for 3 minutes. Right? And it's like it feels good in the moment to give somebody advice, but um I've found that I see men reluctant to, or I see them, I'll see them shut down. Like they'll start to share something, they'll get some immediate advice, and then it dies there. We don't get any further than a problem description. When had we listened and withheld advice and just gave the person the opportunity to continue and go deeper into that, we lose them. And so and then what happens is then I'm like, okay, I'm just not gonna share.
Yeah,
Certainly not with
yeah,
you or you because you give bad advice.
yeah, we've had luckily, like I said, we have I lead a Bible study. I lead another men's group where we work out, and the workout group, Ascent, we've been doing it for like 3, 4 years. So it's like we know each other, you know. So it's like if someone's finally going to give, like, especially if there's the ones who don't really talk a whole lot, but when they do talk, it's like, well, they have some wisdom that to share. But I think what I found, because I'm in a bunch of groups and I'm also in like a connect group with my wife, we help lead, and we have like last night we have like, we have couples, but a lot of times somebody will give, every time someone gives a talk, and then we break into small groups and then we do some praise and worship and then we pray with each other. A lot of times though, we'll split up guys and girls. So the guys will just be with each other, and the same with that group. But since I'm doing it so much, like being vulnerable all the time, it's like I can get burned out because I'm being too vulnerable all the time. It's like feelings where I'll have that urge. That's why I like the workout groups. Like, now let's just go work out. It's in the doing, in the working. A lot of guys also can share sometimes without even really having a whole lot of words, but by doing a project together or working out together, doing things like that. Guys have also throughout the
It's
history of
connection.
time going on a hunt together, or whatever, those kinds of things. That I found that some guys can get burnt out from, it's harder for us to share our emotions. It's like we want to, but sometimes that's exactly what we need. But you have to have that right environment where you don't gonna feel like you're judged, because guys can be, like territorial or protective or macho and those kinds of things. So building those relationships where you can actually have vulnerability, which leads to intimacy, not only with the people in the group, but to you and God, because sometimes they see a lot of things that we don't see.
That's true. And I would agree with you. That's been my experience is like sometimes I need to just hang out. Like go play tennis or go to the shooting range or just sit outside by the fire and smoke a cigar and not talk.
Talk about it. Yeah, no, sometimes, and we don't even say anything. Sometimes it's just hanging out in with a bunch of other
Again,
dudes, grunting if we had to.
in that situation, right? Even though we're not problem solving or fixing anything, there's still that connection of like, I'm not as alone right now as I felt, earlier in the day. Um, because like our wives can connect with us in certain ways, but there's other ways in which I think there are gaps that we fill in relationship with other men that
For sure.
like is not something that our wives can really help us with.
Yeah, there's a lot. We're very different. We just see the world different. And I've really been really getting into. Have you heard of John Eldridge? Have you read his book, That Wild at Heart? It's about,
That's one of like the first like
yeah, that's really changed things.
better man books I ever read. Again, another gift from my wife. And I listened to his interview with Matt Fradd recently,
Yeah, me
which
too. Yeah, they've actually have a great friendship now, because I'm reading Matt Fradd's newest book, Jesus My Refuge, and he dedicated it to John Eldridge because of his relationship, and a lot of John Eldridge's new book is called Experience in Jesus, or Experience Jesus. And I think this has a lot actually to transition into the Rosary, because a lot of what his points he's making, John Eldridge, is that many Catholics don't experience, like what you're saying about with the Mass, that there people throughout time, not every time is guaranteed you're going to have a mystical experience, but that we are all called to have this relationship. But so much of the way the culture is this left brain thinking. And that's what the Rosary,
all the rules.
Yeah, it's like all the lot, like, he says that we're disciples of the internet, because everything, like, to know God, like, we got to have all these facts, we got to have all these things, but we're missing that other half of it, which is that the mysticism about it, like praying the rosary. It's like the genius of it is that, yeah, I'm saying the prayers, I'm holding the beads, it's tactile, but it's preoccupying that side of my brain, where the other side of my brain can wonder, can meditate, can contemplate, can really get into the mysteries. And that's the beauty of it, especially for somebody like me who mind wonders like crazy. I did Divine Mercy first for a long time, because I had a harder time focusing on the Marian part of it,
Yeah.
as a convert. But in the last 3 years, I've been praying both every day. And it's just been a big improvement in that. But I think a lot of that has to do, because I am a busy mind kind of person, is that like I can get the Divine Mercy done in 10 minutes, but 20 minutes, it's like a sweet spot, like the Rosary is 20 minutes, where I have to be forced to sit still, to meditate and to focus. That it's really helped me experience God in a different way, because it's not tricking your brain, but it's just occupying that busy monkey brain part, the
Here,
logical.
you go say these prayers over and over again. I'm going to go over here and
I'm
meditate.
gonna go over here and I'm gonna have an encounter with the Lord.
Yeah.
And I think, as you were talking about the not feeling anything with mass, I'm not giving you any advice. I'm just offering a quote that Father Mike said. It really always resonates with me, because we all struggle with that, right? But he said those are the best masses. The best masses are when we don't feel anything, that we're not getting anything out of it, because we're there for the right reasons. We're there for God. And that really hit home with me when I heard him say that, because we're not there to get, we're there to give. And that's just the whole thing. It's like, even if you get nothing out of it, those are some of the best ones, because you're showing up anyways, because you're showing up for him. So
Yeah,
something to consolation to think about.
for sure. With the rosary and meditation, what's interesting for me is that I've been praying the rosary every day for well over 12 years, probably 13, 14 years. When I first started praying the rosary, I literally told myself, I'm going to pray the rosary on my way to work. I'm going to work mentally. I'm going to be thinking about work. I made a conscious decision that I was going to be working while praying the rosary. That was the only room that I would give God, is like, I'll say these prayers while I'm working in my head. Um, and it's like, I'm not proud of that, but I'm saying it because for people who find the rosary to be intimidating and overwhelming, I want to give them permission to like be bad at it first,
Yeah.
and keep doing it anyways, and not worry about the rules of, if I don't say it this way, if I don't say all the prayers in the right order,
Yeah.
on the right day with the right mysteries, like it's some kind of like lucky charm, then it doesn't work.
Or a formula.
Yeah, but that's how I started, and I kept going. And this was still 7 or 8 years ago. I went through a period where every time I picked up my rosary and started to pray it, I immediately like went into the mystery, like meditating completely on the mystery, almost as if it was happening to me, to the point where like I was being brought to tears, and like I was kind of like nervous to pray the rosary around people in like the adoration chapel, because otherwise I'm gonna be like the kid crying in the corner
Yeah.
for no reason. Um, but I bring this up because it is it's been my lived experience of kind of the miraculous nature of a devotion to the rosary, that I can't claim any merit of. Like, I didn't do anything. It was an experience that happened to me while praying the rosary that I can't explain, that I can't replicate. But it was several months in a row. And like I'll never forget it. And at the same time, I can't necessarily. I've tried to go back to that place, and it's been very difficult. And I haven't really. Maybe I've only had two or three other experiences like that since that time period, a long time ago. Um, but those times really kind of hardened in me this realization that, whether I felt it or not, whether I was praying it well or praying it poorly, that this is the best habit that I can have,
Yeah.
and shouldn't be the only thing that I'm doing, but the benefit of having it as a daily prayer habit is that when you're lazy, when you're struggling, when you're not feeling it, you already have the habit built up, and you can almost like it's like falling back on it as like at least this is as far back as you're going to slide back to a poorly prayed daily rosary.
Yeah, which is fine.
Um,
Which is it's just like prayer. It's the same thing. If you're just praying, from the top of your head or just trying to figure it out, it's like the first step is just get started. Like don't use that as a way. Well, I don't know how to do it well, or I'm not feeling like. Just keep doing it. That's a lot of what our faith teaches us. It's a backwards way that we think about religion. We think that if I believe this thing perfect, and then I'll do the thing, I'll behave properly, and then I'll belong and I'll be part of it.
yeah,
It's upside down. It's like, no, Jesus says you're baptized. You're already a son. Like, the prodigal son, whoever you are, you're my son. You already belong. In doing so, then, then behaving, then believing. It's like, no, you're already part of the family. It's like, you don't have to do these things to earn it. It's like, start badly. Start as, if you're new to it, don't be so hard on yourself. Just the easiest thing to do is just get going. And it's really hard to keep it going. And I think God gives us those moments of mysticism or experience, or to be ecstatic, to be pulled out of ourselves. But he doesn't give it to us all the time, because we'd be searching just for that instead of searching for him.
that's true.
It's like that. Then what would faith do? Faith is something that we don't see all the time, but he gives us those glimpses and those encounters to solidify it. And it's okay. I can look back at that one time and remember, you're true no matter what. You're always with me. You may not always be, I might not always have these mystical experiences or feel it or like have tears. I mean, that's happened to me a ton. I mean, I'm a convert. I had one magical, mysterious uh, invasion of the Holy Spirit, my first mass. I'm like, I'll never get that again. It was like ecstatic. I was like, at the time, I didn't know what it was. I'm like, I walked out like literally a different person.
Yeah,
I looked at my now wife. And I was like, I want to do this every Sunday. And like coming from me, she was like, what? And then I just went on this journey. But he kept along the path giving me. But then you have those times, like St. John of the Cross says, those dark nights of the soul where God can feel distant, but you just keep showing up and keep showing up. And then he'll give you what you need. He's not gonna leave you orphans. He's always there, but he doesn't give us all the time, because then we're longing for those things alone, what he can give, those feelings. And feelings are, let's just be honest, feelings are our faith. Nowhere in the
yeah,
Bible does it talk about our feelings. If you waited to feel things, if I waited to feel to work out, like, I wouldn't go. A
yeah,
lot of days I don't feel like it. I'm sore, I'm tired, I work outside, I work physical job for work. It's like, but I don't make it an option. Like same with prayer. It's not, I don't wake up and feel like praying. Like, no, this has been built into this relationship that I have with God, and I built those habits in. So I have, you know, I just have, I'm a person, I need routines. Like that's who I am. So I built it in there. Some days they're great. Some days I'm mailing it in. I feel like some days, I'm like, did I pray all of it? Like, it's like, but I keep showing up. But there are days where like, man, I feel like I was like transporting and I am in tears. Same with like after mass, I go to kneel and it's like, I don't know why I'm just bawling.
yeah.
Like God's just touching me. He's giving me that consolation. He's giving me that, but he doesn't give us too much of it, because we just like in the Bible, how many times they show me a sign, show me a sign. And all these people saw the signs and that didn't even convert these people. So he knows that those things are fleeting. You'll be looking for the next wonder, the next wow, and chasing those things instead of chasing him, not what he
I've
can.
noticed in those times of whether it's desolation or just dryness or that sense of distance, that in those moments, when I lean into them, what I usually find on the other end is there was something that was in my way. In other words, like God gave me that opportunity to discover or uncover some obstacle that needed to really get moved in order for me to be able to get closer to the Lord.
Yep.
And in those cases, it's like it's this huge blessing, but it's also can be really painful because it's like,
Yes.
oh, I didn't.
Just like surgery is painful, but sometimes you have to get
Yeah.
in there, remove it, and get deep in there. Yeah.
But you'd mentioned kind of this like if I follow the rules and then it's like if I believe perfectly and then I follow the rules perfectly, like then I'll belong. And I think that's what, like, I think this is why I bought this book, and why I just had a sense listening to some of Matt's more recent conversations leading up to this book, that it was clear that there was this realization for him, whether it was personal or just in observation of other people,
Yeah.
that we needed to hear this message that, like, we have a savior because we needed to be saved. And it starts with him saving us, versus it starts with us becoming this perfect version of ourselves, that so then we can belong and deserve his love. It's like, no, it starts with his love that we don't deserve. Um, and it starts in that relationship, similarly, like with the prodigal son, the father didn't just like wait for him. Like, the father went out, was looking for him,
Warm every day. Yeah.
saw him, like at the end of the you think about, like maybe they live kind of in the mountains. It's like he sees him from a mile away and goes to him. He doesn't just like, the son doesn't walk through the property all the way up to the front door and knock on the front door, and the dad's like, "Oh, hey son, glad to have you back." He's like, he goes and gets him. um and it's a relief to know that,
Yeah.
but it's also tough because it's like, I don't want you, like, to love me in my mess. I don't want to be here.
Trust.
I don't want to be in this mess. Like, I want to be out of this, and then
We want to have all the mess taken
over
care of
there.
to show them the how good we are, versus
Yeah,
instead of meeting us there. That, that's what I love about that book. But the other story too about Jesus that really solidifies that is that the baptism of the Lord, as he comes out of the water, what does he say? He's like, "This is my son. This is our identity." He's also talking to us. I'm well pleased. Jesus didn't even start his ministry yet. He
yeah.
wasn't doing the miracles yet. This is his first entry into public ministry before he's, goes to the desert, and then he starts doing everything. But this is my son. I'm well pleased. He's like, no, you're my son. I love you no matter what. I just love you so much. I want to keep you there. But so much we think, yeah, we have to have it all together before we can run to him. That's the beauty of confession. And I just went to confession. It's like, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than being forgiven and seeking him in that refuge to say, I need a savior. I messed up.
Yeah,
Please
I
help
need a
me.
savior,
Help
right.
me in my sorrow. But that book, I'm about halfway through it. And it's just beautiful to be reminded. But the one part that I was getting to where he is just like, the problem, and a lot of the saints have said this, the problem is that do we trust him? That's the first part. Is like, well, do we trust that he's going to love me in my brokenness? Am I going to be vulnerable? So many times our experiences with other people, when we are vulnerable, they can use that against us, that they can use that to hold it against us, or to look different at you. But Jesus doesn't do that. He looks in our woundedness and wants to heal you. He wants to give you that refuge. He wants to bring you back into the fold like the prodigal son. It's just that that's that trust we have to rely on.
And sometimes
By
it's,
mercy.
I want you to stay here
Sometimes, yeah.
in whatever that thing is that you're trying to get out of.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're praying, like, get me out of this situation. I don't want to be here. And he's like, I need you to trust me that you staying here is going to be the best thing for you. In other words, that thing that you want changed, that person, that system, that institution, that
Yeah.
whatever it is, like a job situation, it's like, no, I want you right here with me, because this is where I'm going to form you.
Yeah, this is where the growth's at.
And I think that's where the trust comes in, of being able to say, hey, I want these great things, noble things, but I want your will more. And so I'm going to trust that if these obstacles are not getting moved, that I don't have control over, that I'm going to trust that they're part of your plan.
Yeah,
And I'm going to live with them and work with them instead of work and fight against them.
that trust mostly goes toward, like what you're saying, is that his timing is perfect.
Yeah.
We want it done our way right now, or we went out of that situation. But like, I also love that book which is Stoicism, but it's got some truth to it, is that the obstacle is the way. It's like, so a lot of times that is like that thing that's holding you back, or is that the obstacle is the thing that you have to hit it head on and you can't run from it. A lot of those things are, they're usually problems that we created for ourselves, that's what it's still there. And he's trying to draw attention to us. It's like, okay, no, I'm going to use this to bring out a greater glory. I'm going to help you to grow, to be the person, or to let this thing go, or to prune this, or change the situation, or for your own protection. You're still here for a reason, because I'm protecting you from this thing that you think is going to be great, but this would be your downfall.
Right.
And we don't see that because it's painful. It's like being in a job that you don't like, or, in a bad situation or health situations. Like, no, we want it done right now. But a lot of times it's in that waiting that's where our faith is. Like, what good is faith if it's not tested, or there's nothing to have faith about? What
In
good
the
is hope or love? It's like I just had on Dale Alquist for talking Chesterton. He's got that famous line. It's like, well, what good is love if you're not going to love the unlovable? What good is hope if it's never in a hopeless situation? It's like
true.
we have to actually have situations to put those into practice and to prove it, because it says all throughout Scripture, faith has to be tested, has to be proven. Then you get the endurance and the perseverance and proven character and all those things. But if it's never tested, is it really faith?
When we get in those situations that we get out of, and we know there is no way I could have gotten myself out of this. I think those are the ones that I'm most grateful for. Um, because it's like I can see clearly that the only things that I did were problematic and disruptive. When it's like, and somehow I still got me through this. I was thinking, when you're talking about kind of trust and trust specifically, Mary Untie Our Knots comes to mind, because I don't know what it is about that devotion, but it's just this image of you have this loving mother, and it ties into kind of to Jesus through Mary, and that the times when I've felt the most hopeless, let's say over the last 5 years, I have turned to the intercession of Our Lady Untie Our Knots, knowing specifically that it's like that particular way of looking and seeing Mary and being in a relationship with Mary through that image of Mary Untie Our Knots is a perfect kind of visualization of that hope and that trust of like, I'm asking you to untie this knot that I'm not going to be able to untie, and I'm entrusting it to you, even to the extent of what knot, which knot is actually a knot and what's not. Like, in other words, it's not just that like, go fix this thing my way, right? That's not really trust. It's like, whatever the knot is, untie it, because I want God's will. Those are the moments when I've felt the most confident that I'm able to trust in the Lord through the intercession of Mary, Untie Our Knots. And it's one of the reasons we actually have an Our Lady Untie Our Knots rosary with an image of Our Lady Untie Our Knots on the centerpiece. I like that came out of one of those periods for me where I saw this image. I started asking Mary's intercession specifically by name that way. And some really beautiful things happened. And it's been a source of peace for me during trials, of being able to go to Mary, asking her for her intercession and trusting those things to her, and then just kind of like letting go of trying to control whatever it was I was trying to control, and just saying, I'm surrender this to you.
Yeah, that's the hard part, and it's, yeah, my go-to, I love, I got the Our Lady of the Rosary, Our Lady of Victory tattooed on my arm of her holding a rosary. So I still like the old title, the Our Lady of Victory, just because it's just, the story is great. It's just,
When I read
we've been one.
when I read the Battle of Lepanto in Father Calloway's book, because I had never heard the story before. I didn't, I've been praying the rosary for years, but it's like I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know about Saint Dominic. I didn't know about like his mom's vision of a dog and like a flaming torch. And I didn't know about the Battle of Lepanto. And when I read the story of the Battle of Lepanto, like, it blew my mind, because you're talking about like sacking Rome. Like the worst case scenario here is Rome is sacked and Christianity is gone,
Done.
right? And it's like, instead of like being like, oh well, we don't get into politics, we're just going to stay over here, and it's like, this is an enemy. We're going to meet this enemy head on. We're going unequipped. We're going to be like outnumbered, but I don't care because this isn't going to happen. And not because of because we're the best warriors in the world, but because we have Mary on our side. Everybody in Christendom is praying the rosary, and they have this miraculous, epic, like crushing naval victory.
Definitely miraculous.
What?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that part of the story was that tomorrow we're going to celebrate Our Lady of Guadalupe, that there was some kind of image of
there was an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe on one of the.
Yeah. So that's just a beautiful, we actually, right now our parish is attached to the Shrine of Christ Passion.
Okay.
They also have Our Lady of Guadalupe attachment to it. And it looks like the original church in Mexico. It's a beautiful art. It's St. John, Indiana. It's just, there's 40 life-size Jesus statues. There's the Praetorium where Pontius Pilate's at, and you can sit at the table of the Last Supper, and then you can walk through. It's like a walking station across, and then it comes up to where church is at, and then there's the tomb. But they keep adding on, so they just recently had added on this Our Lady of Guadalupe Plaza, and actually tonight they're having a outdoor rosary, a drone show, and fireworks. And the drone shows are all images of Mary. And
that's awesome.
It's awesome. We went last year. It's beautiful. We're missing it. This is how important this podcast is. So I'm missing.
You got to send me a video if there's.
Yeah, I have them from last year. It was on our Instagram. It was crazy. Just what the technology, what they're going to do. But to see, I mean, it's freezing. We're in Northwest Indiana, Southside Chicago area, and it's freezing cold. And people are outside, families, just tons of people out to pray the rosary. And Father Rocky's there from Relevant Radio, the Rosary Across America. He's prayed the rosary. They do the intentions. The bishop's there and fireworks, like I said. But the drone show, to see Our Lady in the sky with drones, it's just a beautiful thing. And seeing the families all come together. But that's the power of the rosary, is to bring families together. Like to bring, like Father Patrick says, a family that prays together stays together. And a rosary is the surest way that so many saints have, through Mary to Jesus, has been a way that made more saints probably than any other devotion. Obviously the Eucharist comes first. That's not a devotion. A devotion is this prayer or that prayer, or the Divine Mercy or the rosary. But this is a tried and tested view. And if you're new to the rosary, just give it a try and keep trying, because so many saints have been made through the rosary. You're in the right hands. You're with Mary, and she wants to lead you to her son.
I think that's why the Champions of the Rosary story was so powerful for me, was because it was almost like somebody was revealing a hidden truth about my own life. In other words, I had already been praying the rosary for several years, but it was just this, like, I would say, a grace-filled habit that formed naturally. But reading the book helped me see, I started to look back and oh my gosh, I can't believe what's happened, how much I've changed in the last 3 years since I started praying the rosary. And it gave me this confidence of, oh, that explains it. And the best part, though, was it didn't stop there. It didn't stop with the rosary. Eventually, I started going to adoration, and then I started going to daily mass. And, as circumstances change, I go in and out of being able to attend, mass other than on Sundays and holy days. But ultimately, I established a relationship with Mary long before I knew who Jesus was, in a real sense, other than I know that he's present intellectually. I know that he's present in the Eucharist, but it was through Mary that I kind of entered into relationship with Christ.
That's beautiful.
And so, I try to instill it in the family. What I've found praying the rosary with the family is that I've more or less kind of taken the approach of, I'm going to set a quiet example. Like, clearly, I have 3 boys. They know who I am. They know that I'm the Catholic Woodworker. They know that we sell rosaries. They know that I have rosaries all over the place. They know that I pray the rosary every day. we pray the rosary together as a family. Occasionally, I wouldn't, it's certainly not every week. I'd like it to be, but um, when we do, they're old enough now where I generally expect them to participate. But early on, it was just like, I just want you to sit here. If you want to pray the prayers, you can. But all I'm really expecting you early on was just that you're present when I'm praying the rosary.
Yeah.
And then it was like, why don't you participate in one of the decades? And then it's like, why don't you participate in two of the decades? Why don't you lead one of the decades? And eventually we just kind of formed the habit of like, when I say the first part of the prayer, it's like, it's just a habit. They just say the second part of the prayer, but we didn't start there. We started with, can you just sit down and be quiet while I pray the rosary out loud?
Yeah. Baby steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's just the way to do it. It's like it's gonna be messy, and that's okay. It's like if we're totalitarian about it, then they're not gonna want to do it. We have to let the grace and let God help him. Sometimes we have great ones. Sometimes it's like, yeah, the dog's jumping up on us. This one's distracted. It's like, but that's the best part about prayer. When you're distracted. Sometimes God uses those distractions to try to call to mind what he's trying to say to you. Like that's what I found. The more I pray, and if I'm getting lost in this, and I start thinking about something, it's not always bad. Like, well, I'm not thinking about the prayer. Sometimes God will put a song in my head or an image or something that I forgot to do for a reason. It's like, well, what are you trying to say about that, God? And then I'll ask that follow-up question. And sometimes it's meaningful. Sometimes it's just my monkey brain, but a lot of times he uses those things to try to reach us.
This last year, especially, has been a lot of what one could argue as distraction, and has kind of translated into a problem in my life that I'm ignoring or avoiding.
Yeah.
And and what God's inviting me into is like, this needs to get fixed. Like, you have work to do here. The reason why you're distracted right now is because you are ignoring or avoiding this difficult thing that needs to be dealt with. Go deal with this thing. And especially recently, this happened where kind of I came to that realization in prayer. I called a friend to get some advice on something. We talked through it. I addressed the issue, whatever it was. And the next day, I was able to enter into prayer in a state of peace and like calm and like intimacy with Christ, because I wasn't distracted by this thing that I had been putting off.
Yeah, the distractions can be overwhelming. But a lot of times, yeah, like you said, we're avoiding things. That's our culture today. It's like the things that we stay really, really busy is because we're avoiding the silence where God wants to speak to us and challenge us to, go forgive that person, or go apologize to that person, or go do that thing I've been telling you to do. And, he speaks to us in that silence, like in Elijah in the cave. It's like, that's what the rosary and the practice is so important, is that putting yourself in that posture to be still, to occupy your one side of the brain, and to invite, sometimes it's meditating more on the prayers and the words, which is from Luke chapter 1. So you're meditating on scripture. Sometimes it's those mysteries of entering into that. And it's a beautiful prayer. Just want to take time just to thank you for your giving your life to this, because you are helping a lot of people, with the sacramental side, but also by telling your story, coming on podcasts, writing your blogs, doing all those kinds of things, social media, where you're inspiring somebody of how it helped change your life. And I can testify to it, how it's changed my life. And
Yeah.
the more people share that, hey, this isn't just a prayer for old ladies in the church, which it is, and that's good, because if it wasn't for those ladies, we'd be in big trouble. They're the ones, we need those prayer warriors who are holding it down. But that it's something for especially families to pray together. It's good to, start your day with. There's a million reasons to be doing it. And so I just want to thank you for the beautiful rosaries, for this Catholic woodworker, and coming on this podcast to share your story and how it's transformed. And I know you are transforming a lot of people's lives. So what's the best way that people can get in contact with you, as far as if they're interested in those rosaries? You have so many beautiful ones. What's the best way for people to see your work?
CatholicWoodworker.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. But you go to the website, sign up for our mailing list. You'll get to know us a little bit better. we put a lot of effort into not just like, yes, we sell rosaries, but we're really interested in spiritual formation. So there's a lot of, especially seasonally, kind of ebbs and flows of, there's some new rosaries coming out, but there's also a lot of wisdom that we want to try and share, our experience in the rosary. Um, so that's the best way to connect with us. And we've got a lot of great deals going on right now. We usually have some sales because we like to keep our rosary makers busy. So sometimes we'll overproduce just so that they can keep working, and then we'll sell those at a discount, so that we can keep our employees occupied, because it's good for business, but it's good for them to stay employed. And I think it ends up, our customers like it because there's always something on sale.
That's
Um, so yeah, that's the best place to check us out. I really appreciate the time, and it's been a great conversation with you, Bobby.
Oh, appreciate it. No, thank you. So Jonathan Conrad, CatholicWoodworker.com. Check them out. And if you like this podcast on the Rosary, we just did an interview with Gabriel Castillo, where he wrote a book about
He's
secrets of the
wonderful.
Rosary.
Yeah,
He's wonderful. Go check that one out. And if you like this one, go check out these rosaries. You're not gonna be disappointed. They're definitely beautiful. But if you could subscribe, this helps us get the videos out. We release one every single week. So if you could share it with somebody, because the power of the rosary is the power to change the world. So God bless you and have a beautiful night.
thanks.